So if we want to make a scatter plot in the calculator, what we're going to have to do is go into our list editor again, and I always spend a lot of time in there, I suppose. We're going to go into Stat, Edit, and traditionally we put X values in list 1 and Y values in list 2. We don't need to do that, but consistency is always good, so I'm going to do it that way. Where, like usual, the hardest part here isn't your ability to plug these numbers in. Well, actually it is your ability to plug these numbers in, but it's your ability to be careful and patient with this stuff, because, well, I know it's terribly exciting when I do it, but it can get a little old. Anyway, once we have all the X values in, we do the same thing for the Y values. So that's 604 and so on down the line here. Just, again, being careful to make sure that we include all of the pieces that we're supposed to, which is why I am using the mouse here so you can actually see all of the clicks instead of typing them in with the keyboard as I normally would. And oh, there's a little mistake right there, but like I said, it happens. You have to be slow and careful. We've got a couple left though. 441.9 and finally 1157.7. And once all of these are in here, what we're going to do is go to a brand new menu. We're going to hit second, and right over Y equals, you should see a little blue text that says stat plot. If we hit second Y equals, we're going to get into the stat plots menu, and we're going to turn on one of them. You can turn on any of them, but usually you turn on stat plot 1 because, well, why bother turning on other ones? It doesn't really matter though. Here we're going to make sure we're selecting the right type, which is the first one we want. These would be for other things, like if we wanted to get a box plot, we could get a box plot here, or something more like a frequency polygon or a histogram, but we want a scatter plot, so we pick the first option. And like I said, X list is list 1, Y list is list 2. We could change that if we want to, but why mess around? And then what we use to mark them, the default option's fine as far as I'm concerned. Once we have this entered properly, we want to get our scatter plot. We hit graph and nothing appears to happen. So what we need to do here is to make sure it goes in the right place, hit zoom, go down to our options for option 9, which is zoom stat, and from there we have a picture of our scatter plot. Now, just for the sake of comparison here, I'm going to go directly into the second example. Normally I'd clear out the calculator first and put a little transition in here, but this time I want to just jump straight in there, one, because it's a good reminder on how you clear out these lists, but also because I want to see some subtle differences here, and I don't want to actually clear out those stat plot things. But anyway, clear out my lists, and I'm going to put the new things back in here, where like before, we're going to make X list 1 and Y list 2. So just plug these in. Thankfully they're a little bit simpler than the last data set was, where every time you should get that you have the same number of X values as Y values. So if you're ever off in that sort of thing, you know that something went wrong, because explicitly we're building our correlation and later regression type values around these pairs. And if you don't have a pair, well, you can't really talk about a relationship. So these need to be the same. If they're ever off, that means you've missed entering something. Like I did here. How appropriate. I didn't even mean to do that, but let's go back up here and see where that error was, just to be extra safe. So we should have 3 matched with 12.6, 3 matched with 4, 0 with 3.9, 6 with 2.5, 2 with 2.2. So let's see, what would I need to do here? I would need to insert right here. So I'm going to do second insert, put a 10 in there that matches up with that 2.4, and then from there I think we're good. So anyway, we got all these in here. We have our stat plot on, but just to be sure you know where the menu is, we're going to go in there, make sure it's on, and then we're going to go to graph, where it looks like it's wrong again. But just be careful here that if you want to get your scatter plot to actually plot, it has to be zoomed in properly. And zoom stat's not that smart. It zooms in on the last statistical data set you had. Here, this is more of what you want, where it is a little bit frustrating that you don't see all this detail down there with the horizontal axis, but it is still a decent picture for being able to get a sense of what's going on in this data, where it doesn't seem to be any sort of relationship at all in this case. The other one, if you remember, we had a kind of nice positive correlation because it seemed like they're all going up in the same way. This guy, it's just poorly thrown darts at a dartboard, which will happen sometimes. And we're looking for relationships, but that doesn't mean we always find them.